I'm Bruno Albert. I am one of our senior solutions engineers on ShareFile's enterprise accounts team. So I work with everything from start to finish in terms of ShareFile, identifying it up front and getting it up and running on the back. Mary Lou.
Hi, I'm Mary Lou Tiquette. I'm a customer success engineer. Been with ShareFile for about 3.5 years, previously with technical support. And I come in after you become a customer and help you use ShareFile to its fullest ability.
Without further ado, let's go ahead and jump in. And of course, thank you all for being here today. Thank you for taking the time to learn the product a little bit better with us, and we hope that this will improve your business workflows and make life a little bit easier. We're going to keep it simple and high level. As we mentioned, this is a getting started seminar. So of course we have some additional webinars scheduled throughout the month of July, and we do these regularly. So if you're looking for some more advanced usage information, feel free to check out our webinar page for additional upcoming events. But first and foremost, today, again, kind of like an intro session, logging into ShareFile, getting into the basic dashboard, and understanding what we see when we take a look around, as well as how to add a new user, whether that's a client or an employee, organize our files in personal and shared folders, and how to organize our people in distribution groups, as well as creating new content, adding things to these folders in this organizational structure that we build, and sending out and requesting files to and from either our colleagues or clientele or other external parties. And of course, rounding out the suite with ShareFile's desktop tools, which are pretty robust and definitely one of the key attractions to the platform. So that being said, let's go ahead and dive in. So first and foremost, when you initiate a ShareFile account, whether you're the admin or whether someone adds you to your company's ShareFile account, you are given a subdomain. It's almost like a screen name underneath the .sharefile.com top level domain. This one would be unique to your company. So for instance, for the purpose of our demo today, we're going to use webinar.sharefile.com. For my own personal demo purposes through my course of work, I have a small mock company that's brunosdemo.sharefile.com. This is your point of access to log in and get into your own company ShareFile, and you log in with your email address. So we'll go ahead and pop that in. And we will log in. I do want to take a brief moment and show you what it looks like if you haven't already logged in. If you're the first time on a new device, maybe we're just getting started with our ShareFile account. All ShareFile employee accounts, so all employees of your company, by default have two-factor authentication turned on. So that means when I sign in, yes, I've got my name and password, but in the event that that happened to be compromised somewhere out in the world, your credentials that you maybe use from another site, by the way, don't reuse names and passwords, it's bad practice, but just as an additional layer of security, as I'm sure you see with many services and platforms nowadays, we implement a two-factor authentication, which means, yes, we've got your name and password and we've verified that that checks out, but we want to make sure beyond any shadow of a doubt that it is you, so we can send a text message or provide a code via a voice call to your phone number that you've supplied to us when creating your ShareFile user profile. Or if you have an authenticator app like Google Authenticator, Microsoft Authenticator, even Duo, some of these other tools that provide a rotating PIN code that changes out every few seconds, you can use that as well. In my case, I'll just use a text message. And note that when I click I trust this computer, it's going to remember me the next time I come back. So I won't have to do this code process every single time. So that being said, go ahead and get me logged in. And I'm taken to my ShareFile dashboard. We'll just briefly touch on the lay of the land here. So we've got any recent files that we've used with this ShareFile tenant, as well as shortcuts. So if I just want to sign in and very quickly request files from someone or share files out to someone, I've got a really quick way to do that. I can browse my ShareFile account or drag and drop stuff right off of my computer desktop into this little window here, and it'll generate a link that I can use to securely share out files to other individuals, as well as request some incoming. I've also got a few other key points here: the ability to create a new user, check out my own personal or shared folders, which we will also see in a moment in our nav bar on the left, any folders I've marked as favorites, and a couple of other more powerful functionalities like requesting feedback and approvals and signatures on documents. Given, again, that we're keeping this as an intro session, we'll put those aside for now. So now that we're comfortable with the dashboard, let's take a look at our folder structure here. This is one part I always like to explain when folks are getting started with ShareFile for the first time. We have personal folders and we have shared folders. As a best practice, generally speaking, we recommend that you use shared folders as the more curated company space. Sometimes we see our customers set this up almost like the company network drive. This may be something that in years past or ages past, we've had our company has had a file server on-prem, and now we've moved that to the cloud, but perhaps IT managed that, and it was permissioned out so that only the right individuals would see the right folders. For example, only the accounting department would see the folder labeled accounting, and so on and so forth. But generally speaking, the shared folders place can be a little more restricted in terms of who manages it, who's able to see things, etc. The personal folders section, I like to describe this more as a My Documents folder in the sky. While all data that goes into ShareFile is always owned by your company, right? Nothing is private to a user that your admins wouldn't be able to see. Your company owns it, period. That part's very cut and dry. Governance is a key tenet of the ShareFile platform. But the personal folders is perhaps a little less rigid, maybe more of a convenience section. I want to emphasize that this is by no means a restriction. If I add documents to personal folders, I can still choose to share those with certain people as needed. If I have permission to create stuff in my company's shared folder space, that doesn't mean I have to blast it out to many teams in my company. Although remember, everything here is going to be visible to your account admins, but I can still keep things more or less private. Sometimes that's while I'm organizing it, before I unveil it to my team, and so on and so forth. So this is a matter of preference and what works best for your company, but I wanted to offer a little bit of guidance there. Kind of rolling through the folder section as well, we'll see here a file box. So when we first logged into ShareFile and looked at the dashboard, we noticed those buttons to share and request files, and we can just grab them right off of our computer desktop, turn them into a ShareFile link, and know that they're stored securely and shared out to our recipients securely. In a scenario like that, we're not required to place those files into a portion of our company's structure, right? Maybe this is more of an ad hoc thing. I need to get someone a report very quickly. tax returns, contracts, whatever it may be, more of an ad hoc kind of scenario. Hey, I just need to get this to you. Boom, there it is. Okay, well, where does it live then? The file box is the answer. This is somewhat of your swap space for ad hoc transactions, collecting files from outside parties, sending files out to whomever, and once they're turned into a ShareFile link, they are uploaded a ShareFile on the back end. If they don't have a home in your overarching folder structure, they'll live in the file box for the time being. Finally, we've talked about who we share content with, who we're requesting files from or delivering it to. So let's take a look at our people folder, or excuse me, people tab. So when we click on Manage Users Home, we can see we're broken into two high-level sections here, employees and clients. This, I do want to stress, this is something that as an employee of my company, I have to be given permission to create or manage other employees, which might include deleting employees as well. And likewise with clients, I can't just add additional people unrestricted. This is reserved for individuals that have permission to do this. But let's take a look at what that looks like and what rights are given to someone. So in the most basic sense, we only need a name and an email address, generally speaking, for clients as well as employees. But let's look at what kind of access we assign. Step 2 here, after we've entered the name and email in step 1, step 2 is a comprehensive list of permissions. And this is one of the ways that ShareFile is fairly different from other platforms on the market, in that we allow you to customize the permission for each employee in a very granular sense. And these account level permissions are decoupled from permissions to specific folders and files, which we will get into in the second half of our presentation here in just a minute or two. So what that means is I can set someone up to manage people on the account. Perhaps it's my IT team, and I want to give them rights to handle administrative tasks without actually allowing them to see a ton of content. Well, our user rights versus our folder rights are decoupled. The flip side of that is, what if I have someone who has no business managing IT tasks and administrative duties like clearing things out or deleting other employees, but I want to give them free reign in a specific area of files, perhaps their departmental folder, maybe because they're a manager or department head. I can give them control over that zone without allowing them too much permission into the rest of the account. And so that's where these permissions come in, determining what someone can do on the account. Can they create root level folders in the shared folders company space or use a personal file box? We can take that away if we want to, as well as using an e-signature license, which is our integrated right signature platform. In kind, we can control their ability to manage, which includes creating and deleting clients and or employees, whether someone would be able to make another employee an admin, and what we can do with distribution groups, which will be our next point here. This also extends out to whether they can edit the logo of our company branding, our color scheme, produce reports and view logs of activity on the account. A lot of these would be more security focused, and not everyone's going to need that permission. Again, keeping it high level, I'll collapse our user access section, and we'll just take a look at step 3. So when we do create a user, we can opt to assign them to folders and sections of data at a later time, or we can give them some content right now by clicking Assign Folders, in which case we simply choose where we want to add them, and what level of permission they need on that folder. I'll gloss past this now because we're going to dive into that a little later. But the next step here, and a very powerful one when you have lots of users, is that you can add this user to a distribution group. A distribution group is an entity that can be added or removed to and from different folders in ShareFile. And although a distribution group can contain many people, even hundreds of people, this is added as one entity to a folder. So let's say here I've got a distribution group for my accounting team, and I'm in the process of making a new user. Let's say I want to add them to the accounting team. Well, at this point, I might have already configured this accounting distribution group to have access to the accounting folder. And maybe they can download files from there, but can't delete anything. Maybe it's a one-way push. Whatever the level of permission is for this group, once I've got that set to the right folders, it's much easier for me to add and remove individuals to and from this group rather than one by one trying to set them up on a variety of different folders. So this is a convenience and a degree of automation when I'm setting up and permissioning individuals on my account, just managing their group membership so I don't have to deal with everyone individually. And this works for clients as well as employees. So if I've got a list of partners, vendors, other external parties, my customers, whatever they may be, perhaps board members, I can just set that up as a group. And anytime that roster changes, I just edit the group. And now I don't have to worry about managing that person. So that being said, at this point, Mary Lou, I will throw it over to you to get a little deeper into the file sharing and the folder rights.
Very good. Thank you so much, Bruno. This is the same account that Bruno was in, the webinar.sharefile.com. And what we're going to go over first is creating folders and the permissions that you can give on those folders. So let's go into our folders and into shared folders. And we can see, I'm going to show what we have, some root folders here, root folder 1 and root folder 2. Now, when I pop into the root folder, you'll see that all you're seeing is subfolders, and that's on my part purposeful. While you can upload files to the root folder, it's usually best if you use the root folder, the main folder, as the setting for those subfolders that you're going to create in there. And then you can give different permissions on each subfolder. You can have permissions on the root folder that go all the way down through your tree. Whatever works best for you, but it is cleaner not to load files into the root folder. So let's just quickly create a folder so you can see the process. We'll do root folder 3, just to be super boring. We can put some details in here. You can add people at the time you're creating the folder. You can also use folder templates, which is something that's a little bit more advanced and would be covered in a specific webinar for that. We'll create the folder. And you see here we have, it does allow you to load files in here if you'd like, but what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a subfolder. So we can come right over here and just create a folder from within. And this will be our subfolder. And if we go back, you can see we've got the path up here. So it goes all the way back to shared folders, but we can go right back to the root and we can see the subfolders that we've created in here. Now, if you'd like to upload something, you can upload directly into the folder from here. And then once it's loaded in, you can upload. I moved that into the subfolder. And now it should be in the subfolder. So here we are in the subfolder instead of in the root folder. I had backed up to the root folder. So let's go over some the folder permissions. Let's get to the people that are on here, and you'll see that we have 6 folder permissions that can be allowed. So we have download, pretty self-explanatory. You can download anything that's in that folder if you have the download permission. Download alerts. That will send an email anytime a document is downloaded. The user must have admin permissions on the folder to be able to have download alerts. So if you have someone on here that is not an admin, the download alerts will not be available for you. Upload permissions. This gives the user the ability to upload files to the folder. With this permission, the user is also able to create subfolders. The subfolders will automatically inherit the permissions of the root folder. The user creating those subfolders will not be able to manage users on the subfolders unless they have the admin permission on the root folder. So it's important to have admin permissions if you want to be able to manage those users down below. Upload alerts. That will notify the user every time a file is uploaded to the folder. In order to enable upload alerts, the user must already have download permission. So if you have the download permission, you can enable upload alerts. So whenever anything's uploaded, it's available for you can know that it's available for you to download. The delete permission. This gives the user the ability to delete items from the folder. So this permission should be granted cautiously. The note that by default, the users are granted permission to delete anything they upload without the delete permission. That is default on any account. If you don't wish your users to be able to delete what they upload, that would be something that support could take away from the account, but it is account-wide. You can't do it for one user and not another. The delete permission is also necessary to be able to move a file or to rename a file. So that delete permission has a couple of different uses. The admin permission allows for management of people and permissions on the folder. Along with admin comes the delete permission, and both of those are needed, as I mentioned, to rename a folder. The delete can be given without admin, but admin cannot be given without delete. So if you enable admin, delete will automatically populate, but you can just give delete to anyone. Even with admin permissions, the owner of a folder can never be removed. So you can have all of these permissions, but that owner is there for all time unless they are removed from the account completely. That's the only way to remove the owner from a folder. So let's go back to our dashboard now that we've created some folders and decided what we want for permissions. And let's share a file. And from the shortcuts, we can go directly to that. You can drag and drop files in here, or as Bruno was showing, you can browse files either from ShareFile or from your computer. For this demonstration, I'm going to load from ShareFile. Okay, so once we add the file or folder in, we will either send to specific people or we can get a link. So get a link is if you are wanting to include this in an email or any way you'd like to share it. When you can see it was copied to the clipboard, if we want to edit the options here, we can edit and allow people to either download, or you see this is grayed out because that was a PDF, and edit is for those Microsoft documents that can be edited from within ShareFile. So for this, just download is going to be the proper allowance for the file. And then who can access the link? We have several options. Anyone anonymous is not something that I recommend to my users for a couple of reasons. For security, and also because you would have no way to track. I always recommend at least anyone name and email. That'll at least allow you to do some reporting and see who has been navigating through your system. You can also have sign-in required for either both client and employees or it's just employees. And then access goes anywhere from 3 months to never. Depends on how long you want the link to stay available. Always link to the latest version of the file. This is important if you have a file that is edited often and you want to make sure that anyone that has access to this file through this link is always getting the most recent one that you've saved. And you can also notify when the link is accessed so that you can determine that the person has seen it, opened it, interacted with it. Let's go back and we'll go back over to send to specific people. So you can actually share this directly from here without involving email. You can encrypt from here. We can also edit the same items. Whoops, uh-oh, look what I did. So if you close it, it's going to cancel. So we're back here. The select, this is going to select from your address book. So if I start typing a name in, it's going to show you the people that have that name in your shared address book or your personal address book that you can choose from. And then you can put a message, you can put anything you'd like in that message. If you are using the same message, say you have to send to several people different things, but you'd like the subject and the message to say the same. This is completely editable. And then the message, it can be the same every time or different, but if you'd like it to be the same, check the box. And then you can send right from here. This will send them an email directly from within the web application. Gonna cancel that. Let's move over to requesting files. Very similar to sending files. You see our file location is the file box that Bruno was talking about. The file box is where default, where requested files will deposit, or it's where they are temporarily stored if you're sending through, say, ShareFile for Outlook and pulling from your desktop. Because if you pull from your desktop, you need it to hit somewhere in ShareFile before you can send it with our platform. So the file box is where it would hit before it was sent out. However, you can edit this. So if you had a file, you were requesting files from someone and you wanted everyone in your organization to be able to see everything that was uploaded. Well, everybody has permissions. Let's just say, for the sake of argument, everyone has permission to client folders. That's where we're going to have them deposited. So we can just edit to any folder you'd want. You can make a certain folder that collects everything so that you can have designated people go in and pull the files and put them where you would care to have them. And same, get a link. We don't want to upload anonymously, do we? So let's change that to name and email. And you can save that, and that will be your default going forward. And you can copy this link and include it in an email if you'd like, just like we did before with the share. And send to specific people, same. We've got the address book here where we can choose who we'd like to request from, and the subject and message that we can also remember. The next thing that I wanted to talk about was our tools. We have two tools that are the most popular. We have more than two tools, but we have two tools that are the most popular tools: ShareFile for Outlook and ShareFile for Windows. ShareFile for Outlook attaches to your Outlook and allows you to securely send any of your files directly from your email, and will allow you to send more than the standard 20 megabytes of data, because it will put it into a link. It's not putting it into the email. The Citrix ShareFile for Windows is a desktop application. It's a mapped drive, gives you a portal to the cloud, and will give you your folder structure and access to it all, and many different things that you can just do directly from there. You don't always have to come into the web application for everything. So I wanted to show you where you could get those applications for download. We have them in our app section. We do have applications for Windows and for Mac. We also show mobile and third-party integrations as well. For this purpose, I'll show you the apps for Windows. You heard me saying Citrix instead of ShareFile. Since ShareFile is now its own entity, we are rebranding into ShareFile for Outlook and ShareFile for Windows. And ShareFile for Windows will be the norm that you see out there in just a few days, I believe. It's being rolled out right now. So everything will say ShareFile and not Citrix. But you can download the ShareFile for Windows right here, and it will map that, usually the S drive. If you're already using the S drive, you can choose an alternative drive for it to map. And then ShareFile for Outlook, you can download that right here. After it's been downloaded, the only qualification is that you will need to close and reopen your Outlook, and then it will be there for you to start using. The last thing that I wanted to touch on is our resource center down here in the bottom right. If you click into the ShareFile logo, you will see that we have Get Started, we have things that are new, we have support articles, plethora of information in here. Also, under Help, you can visit the Help Center, and there are many things in there that you can search for as well. You say, oh, I can't really remember how to do this, just pop right in there and you'll find a document that will walk you through what you need.
Okay, and we'll keep this fairly minimal, but just to show, so Mary Lou went through the process and the different options for creating a link to a file and sending that out, whether that's with username and password credentials, or anonymous access, or just simply asking for a name and email address for tracking purposes. So just for posterity's sake, and I know because we had a Q&A question about this, we'll go ahead and show what that looks like. And we can also touch on including a ShareFile link in your email signature so that it's always available. I know that's a trick I used to use as well. So let's say we have just our Excel sheet. And we edit our options. Let's just say this is a download link. I'm just providing this file to someone, and I've selected anonymous, or we'll look at anyone with name and email required. We'll skip the full-on sign-in required, but I'll explain the differences in the process here. And it's also nice to know that you can differentiate between employees only as well as client and employees. So if you want to keep something strictly internal, you can. But in this case, let's just take a look at just providing a basic copy of a link. Right. And so now essentially any parameters I've applied to this instance of a share, the time frame that the link is going to expire, the password requirements, what they're able to do with the link, whether that's download or edit. We also have some options for providing view-only links available depending on your account type, where someone can view the file online but not download it. All of that is wrapped up in this link. which thankfully can actually be tweaked after the fact if you found that you want to extend the expiry, etc. So let's copy that. And we will simply paste that in here. Now, the importance of this is this is a ShareFile link. It's like any other link, a link to a news article you read that you would share, etc. So that means that if your company uses Slack to communicate, or you want to text this to someone, drop it into an email, it's a link. You can do whatever you would do with any other web link. And of course, this same methodology underpins the other pieces that we have. So I can generate these links to shares out of my Citrix files for Windows and Mac desktop app. This is very similar to what someone would experience if they got a link generated by my Outlook plugin. Once they click, the message might look a little different if I'm sending it that way, but once they click, the process is the same. They're getting into ShareFile with whatever restrictions or options I provisioned. So in this case, we selected anyone with the link can access the file, but we are going to ask them for their name and email address. That's so that as the sender, when I get a receipt, a notification that someone has downloaded the file, I want a name on it, so I know who downloaded it. This is not verification. True verification, or to use the technical term, authentication, would require a sign-in because that's using a verified email. This is open text that we're asking the user to input something. So it's a convenience. It's a nice middle ground between I need you to create an account and sign in and create a password. And, so it's more convenient, although perhaps a degree less secure than a full-on login. But it is more verified and a bit more robust than just simply, here's a link, click it, you get a file. This is the middle ground. When we click continue after entering the info, again, from the client view, there we go. We're taken directly to our file. Now, if we didn't request the name and email address input from the recipient of this link, they'd click the link, they'd get directly to what you see now, just directly to the file. If you share out multiple files, they'll be taken to an icon view where they can pick which one to open or download. But in this case, we just use one. There's no selecting anything. It just opens right there in your web browser. And ShareFile does have built-in previewers for all the primary Office document types, Word, Excel, PowerPoint, PDF, and so on and so forth, as well as all common media file types, sound files, videos, images, and so on and so forth. So looking through and how does the notify users of download and the file work? Looks like John is answering that. This would just be a simple email from ShareFile saying someone has opened your file. So yeah, adding to the email signature. So yeah, it's going to be very similar to what we saw, but we saw sending out a file. So we're moving in the opposite direction, but the actual process of creating that link is going to be nearly identical. So what I would suggest is to choose if this is going to be something that all inbound documents need to be organized into a particular area, we can choose a folder. If not, if this is more of a catch-all, we can perhaps choose our personal folders. But wherever we are, we simply click request files. And just like we saw with sending out a file, when we request it, we're verifying the location. We click get a link. And we have the exact same options, right? Who's able to access this link? Anyone, so long as they enter a name and email. An anonymous user, just click, don't enter anything, but I'll let you drop off a file. Or are we going to require a login? And of course, when does that access expire? Once we do that, and I do recommend if you're putting a request file link, especially in your email signature, I recommend leaving the notifications turned on so that if someone uses that link, you'll get an email from ShareFile's system saying a file has been dropped off for you. But once we do that, we click Save, Copy, and now we've got an HTML link that we can embed in Outlook, Gmail, on our website, wherever, and it's the same process as embedding any other link, that you might use. So that just depends on which platform you're using, Outlook, Gmail, etc. I wouldn't recommend just pasting this in the way that it is, but rather pasting it as a link where you can give it a prettier title, format it, bold the right parts, kind of gloss it up a little bit. But that's how it would work. And then the recipients, anyone using that link, would simply see if you left the name and email tags on, they'd see that. And if not, they would just be taken directly to the drop-off point where they can drag and drop files in. Very clean, simple. I would recommend, if you're pasting that into your email signature, that you set the parameters to never expire so that you don't have to deal with a broken link after 180 days or a year. If you're planning on keeping it there in your email signature. And one other thing that I wanted to point out, I think I left out of my description, was when sending or requesting files, if we state that sign-in is required and we're providing this to someone that perhaps has never signed in or created an account before, it will prompt them to create an account. It will walk them through, enter your name, your email address, create a password, verify your email, those simple steps to creating a ShareFile login. And they would be created as a client on your account. So not a licensed user, but an unlicensed client user under your governance and purview. So hopefully that covers everything. Did I leave anything out of that?
Nope, that was perfect. We
Okay.
have one more question that we're going to answer today, and Mary Lou's going to answer it. I'm just reading a message here really quick. Okay. So I think Bruno might have answered it, but maybe Mary Lou, if you could just maybe elaborate on it. So I'll
Sure.
read out the question here. So I will be using ShareFile mostly for sending large claim files to parties outside of the company with an email PDF attachment of the file so they can download it. So I think it would be really great to answer maybe what's the largest size file that you can send of a single file, and then anything else that you want to add to that, Mary Lou, because Bruno did a great job covering most of that as well.
Okay. So we have it depends on your plan type, but most plan types allow for 100 gigabytes per file. So that's where your limitation will be. And we can go into share files. I'll once again go from share file. I'm going to grab that PDF, add it, create the link, and then you can use that link. That link will be good to send to anyone. You don't have to make it specifically for a single person. You can use that link now to send to anyone. I think that was the question.
Yeah, and maybe to add to it is, so let's say you've created the link, where can you go in ShareFile to go back to it later?
So here we have in our inbox, we have the things that we've sent, and you can see the different, this is the one that I just created. And we can see that here. See, there's information in your inbox for things that you sent. Also for things that you've received, if you've received anything. I haven't received, I've only sent things out, but there's a lot of good information in here. And something else that you can do from here, you could, if you created that link and sent it and you, oh, I meant to do something different, you can come in here and expire that link. If you don't want a link that you've sent out to be active anymore, you can expire it right from the send box.
In closing, we just want to say thank you all for attending today and putting some time into using this. We will have some details and recaps and resources being distributed within the next few days. And we just want to remind you to engage with us as we said here on the webinar page, through support, and even by way of following up with the resources that are provided afterwards. So we'll do our best to address any outstanding questions, and we really appreciate you putting in the time to hopefully get a bit more agile with this.
Thanks very much for joining us today.